afterwards.
Good morning. Today is March 6th, 2020. It is now 11:06. We are here. Committee is reviewing RFP 20-06 Management Solutions. In attendance today, we have Chief Building Official Miguel Nunez, Town of Pembroke Park, Interim Deputy Town Clerk Marlene Martel, the Town of Pembroke Park, and IT Director Mark Pacula from the Town of Pembroke Park. As the supervisor role, I just want to let everybody know that I did review the proposals that were submitted to us, and on a cursory review, they have met all the necessary requirements as far as the submission of the bids to the town. The information was provided to you all this week. Earlier this week, and the purpose of this meeting now is for you guys to discuss your findings as it relates to the bids that were submitted to the town. So I leave the floor to you guys.
Your name?
Oh, sorry. Harry Taubenfeld, Assistant Budget and Finance Director, Town of Pembroke Park.
Okay, so I'll start. I'll start only because
I'm sorry. Before we begin, my apologies. Just to put on the record, the two companies that did submit their bids, first company was Information Consultants, Inc., and the second company that submitted their bid was Broward Microfilm, Inc. Sorry, Marlene, go ahead.
I'm just gonna start just because this affects my department most of all, and actually building department as well. But it will affect every single one of the departments because everyone has to enter into the system documents that should be available to residents, you know, ASAP. This will also take a lot of work from us because it'll already be up on the system. They can go to it and they can take it out from that system. I reviewed both BMI and IC, and I gotta tell you guys, based on the information provided, I saw the qualifications for both companies, which I rated them equal. On the approach, I rated IC, which is Information Consultants, higher than BMI. And the reason why I went with Information Consultants at a higher rating was because they had extensive, and their approach was more extensive when it came to the training. And I think that's one of the things we need here in the town. We really need an extensive amount of training here. So that was one of the reasons that I went higher on the approach. When it came to innovative and creativity approach, again, it was the same thing. I was more comfortable with Information Consultants than I was with MBI. So I rated them 10 for BMI and a 15 for Information Consultants. And of course, the fee was huge difference. So again, BMI, I just gave them a 10, but Information Consultants, I gave them a full 35. The difference between one and the other is almost doubled. Information Consultants is $23,000, while BMI is $44,000. For the same service. So it's $23,076 for Information Consultants, and it's $44,546 for BMI the first year. The consecutive years are still a lower rate for Information Consultants, and the only part that's a little higher is when it comes to work being done outside the scope. BMI is $160, and Information Consultants is $225. So that would be around the only area, but in consideration, if the scope went, if we did additional things outside the scope, once again, we're talking about a $20,000 difference, which, you know, I don't see us going over a scope over, you know, $20,000. So again, I just feel that Information Consultants is the better deal for the town. Does anybody else have additional comments?
I actually came to the same conclusions. I met with both companies, and the biggest thing that I noticed with IC is that they basically put a big onus on training, which is what we wanted, because our goal is to have them come in, and after they leave, we have a staff that doesn't need to rely on them, but we're still going to have support with them. and that's included in the yearly. But we want to be able to be self-sufficient, and they really focus on the training, getting our people ready, so that 2-week window, we're up and running. So I graded them higher. Do you want me to go over the actual?
Sure.
I graded IC on qualifications 15. BMI also gave them 15. On the approach, which had to do with the training, I gave IC 35. I gave BMI 30. On the innovative, pretty much they had somewhat of the same approach as far as the implementation. Those both graded out of 15. On the fees, where I gave a higher for IC because their fees were about, like Marlon said, about $20,000 less. So I gave them a 35, and I gave BMI a 25. Grading out at IC at 100, and I gave BMI 85. So I would recommend we go with IC. And also, like Marlon said, the initial cost is less expensive. The year 1 and year 2, which is locked in, is less expensive. The only thing that's a little higher is their cost per hour. But if we do have any major changes, that would probably be in a work order or down the road. So we would probably go outside of that 225 and get a quote for a particular job that we're going to be doing for additional work. So I don't think that's going to be as much in play. And also the 6126 does cover support hours in there for our employees to call up. So we may go outside of that, but I've also put rules in place with which company we do go with before we ever hit that 225 per hour, that it's approved by the people in those departments, meaning a department head would have to say, okay, yeah, they can go about this above the scope to get approval for paying additional hours so that we're not spending money that we don't know about. That was a big factor also. So if the building department has an issue that's not covered under our scope, they say, okay, yeah, it'll cost us 3 hours. You'll know about it beforehand. There won't be a surprise. So that was one thing I did like. The other company was kind of, we'll do it, and we'll send you the bill afterwards. So my decision is with IC.
Just one quick question. What about implementation? Did they just either one?
Implementation is about a 2-week period. Both companies will bring in equipment. We also have our own equipment based on the recommendations of all these companies that we have ready to go, which part of the process will be they're going to help configure it with myself. And then part of the bigger process is training 5 individuals that we need to deem. We have a couple picked already. We basically will need one from the building department, which Miguel will let us know who he wants from that department. We also need one from administration, one from finance. So
One from each department.
basically, we're going to 5 people, myself, you know, and Mr. Orwell, and I know Ms. Susie over there will be on that also. And so we're going to get 5 people to train, and then those people can train everybody else. Part of the other process will be we're going to be using the new printers that we're using. Each department will be using scanners in those printers to also scan in stuff. So you're going to have multiple ways to scan things in. Plus, if you're not sure, right now we're looking at, talking with Marlon, that we're probably looking at Mr. Orwell going to be using the big scanner up on the 2nd floor. So we have really big jobs. Plus, in the building department, we'll be using the big scanner that we bought for plans and getting those digitalized. But those will have to be done within those departments. But Mr. Orwell, I think, will be the de facto person to bring things to if you have a big caseload. And we also talked about yesterday in our department head meeting that Mr. Warner, we're going to get him a small scanner up at the front desk so he can scan for whatever departments we figure out he's going to do. So he can do some scanning up there. So that'll help out too. So there's going to be a lot of avenues. So if things might, need to get done and you're busy in your departments and we've got extra work, people can do the load, we can pass it off to them. But it would all have to go through our clerk for that department because Mr. Warner falls under that department. So once again, I would just stress we go through department heads for who does what work outside of, and we'll be okay.
Okay, wonderful. Miguel Nunez, building official for the town of Pembroke Park. I concurred with my colleagues here. I was looking into the innovation, what's the name? Information consultants. On the training basis, I give them higher points on the training as they provide a better training than BMI. One of the things that it called my attention was the initial cost. It's in the avenue of almost $20,000 plus minus. While the yearly cost is going to be a little bit larger, we actually have support that the other BMI, it appears, does not provide. And that will create an added value for their services. The implementation process basically will be the same for both of us, or similar for both of them. And one of the, based on what Mr. Pacula was mentioning a few minutes ago about giving training on other individuals going into the system, I will respectfully ask all the people not to scan into the building department because of the naming conventions that we're gonna have in there.
Just, yeah, we're going to talk about all that, but yes, no one's scanning into other departments unless they're allowed to. That's going to, only building will do building, only clerk will do clerk, unless you wanted to. That's
Okay,
all.
wonderful.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah, and basically, on what I read and what the grading that I have, qualifications, IC is 15, BMI 15 also, they're almost the same. Approach, 35 for IC, 30 for BMI. Innovative or creative approach, basically both of them are almost the same, so I'll give them 15 to both of them. In the fee, I am a little bit more stringent on that. I give it 35 for IC because of the better product, better value for our services, in my opinion. And BMI, I give it a point of 20. So it is my opinion that IC has a better value for the services.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody for their time that they put into doing the evaluation process. It seems clear that IC is the recommended choice from the committee. I thank you for your time. I will go ahead and write up the recommendation to the commission. I'll send it out to each of you as well, so you have a copy of it, to let everybody know where we stand as far as it relates to this. I just need you all to please turn in your ranking sheets to me at this time, and then if nobody has any questions, we will conclude. We will conclude our committee meeting for RFP 20-06, Documents Management Solutions. Thank you.
What time is it?
It is now 11:17.